Alright, I guess I have some explaining to do. So let's just start by saying this, right? Thank you guys so much. It is just so annoying that the last video I was able to upload was such a banger and you guys smashed it. Thank you so much for that. 30 likes, that's uncharted territory. Mad, absolutely mad. Now let me also say now that I am sorry. I understand that I have been gone for a fat amount of time, right? And I have loads of excuses. Well, not really. I just have one main excuse, right? I fucked up my A levels because of this Boris and the predicted grades and stuff, right? So I had to focus on those for 2 months, right? And now I'm back. That's done. That's dusted. I am back in full fudging swing. Now, without further ado, let's finally get on to Storytime with Gray. Episode, I can't even fucking remember. This video is more of a topic than a story, because I've actually got 2 stories for you today, you lucky gits. Buy one, get one free, mate. Have some of that. The stories are very similar, however the only difference was one's a pet, and one's some wild fucking animal my dad found in the woods somewhere, right? And they both managed to escape their cages and let havoc around the house. And this is basically stories about how the fuck we found them. The first of the 2 escapees was my lizard, and his name was Sid. Well, I called him Nano, right? Because, you know, Nano sounds cool, but my sister called him Sid. And then after a while, the whole family started calling him Sid. And so his name turned into Sid. That's irrelevant anyway. So one day, right, we still don't know how. We feel like he sort of head-butted the cage open a little bit with his head, and he managed to open the door and jump out of the cage, which was on a freaking bookshelf, like, I don't know, at least 4 foot tall, right? So he did some fucking acrobatics to get out of that shit. And that's how he got out. But the more interesting part is how we found him again. It'd been like a week, right, and no sign of the little shit. And so we sort of like started giving up hope, and we thought he'd escaped out of the house or something, you know. We were trying, but just nothing was working. As it so happens, my sister had a sleepover one of the nights. And she invited like quite a few friends around, like 3 or 4. And because there was quite a few of them, they had to sleep downstairs, of course. So they set up like camp. They put a fat mattress to cover the whole floor. And they went to bed at like, I don't know, fucking 10 o'clock. 5 hours later, right, while everyone's asleep at 3 fucking a.m. in the morning, right, we hear the fattest scream ever, yeah, as if someone's just been murdered stone cold. This then causes my mum and dad to like rush downstairs, like, oh my god, what's going on? Oh, are you alright, yeah? And then they just sat there laughing, right? And we're just a bit confused, to be honest. My sister proceeded to tell us what happened, right? And apparently one of her friends woke up in the middle of the night because they heard like some sort of rustling around the window shelf. So being shit scared, they proceeded to wake up my sister and my sister's other friend. And they were like, oh, what's going on? So it's 3 a.m. in the fucking morning. What you doing? My mum's going to kill me. She then explained how she heard rustling around the window shelf, and they got a little bit curious, you know, so they got the old flashlight out on their phones, they had a little look. They looked on the window shelf, they saw nothing. They opened the window, looked outside the window, they saw nothing, right? So they was really confused what this rustling sound the girl heard was. Until when my sister was closing up the curtains, she felt a little spike on her hand, and at first she thought nothing of it, she thought it was the cactus, because we have a little cactus behind the curtain, you know, and so she sort of went back to sleep. And they continued to hear this rustling, right? And they were getting really frustrated. They couldn't go to bed. So they got up once again for one more final check to make sure nothing was there. However, this time as well, they could hear like a faint sort of hissing sound, like a you know. But it sounded as if it was like right in front of them, and they couldn't see fuck all. Until just as about they were going back to bed, you know, they was about to give up. Apparently my sister saw this outline of a shape. But the more she looked, the more she realised, fuck me, that's Sid. She then pointed it out to her friends. And this is where the screams come from. They fucking went berserk. The little shit had actually been camouflaged within the curtain, you know. There was a similar pattern, similar colour. So that's why they couldn't see it at first. Back to the present time, right? She then points to the curtain and she says, there's Sid. And then nothing was there. It was like, are you sure? And she was like, look, it's right there. It's like, oh, where the fuck has he gone? And so obviously my mum and dad are pissed off, right? Because she just woke us all fucking up at 3 a.m. So they're like, you know what, Brie, we'll just look for it in the morning. And then start to head off back to bed until we hear another fucking scream, right? Because apparently one of the girls had gone in her bag to call up her mum to tell her, oh, she wants to go home. There's a fucking lizard in these crazy people's house, right? And she wants to get the fuck out of here. But as she was reaching into her bag to get her phone, guess what motherfucker's in there? Sid, the little shit. My sister's friend just stood there stone fucking cold for a solid 5 seconds. And trust me, when it clicked, she bolted out. We then returned Sid to his cage, and that's pretty much the end of the story. Our next story takes place about 3 years later, where one day I was home alone and I heard my dad come through the back door. Excitedly, he calls my name. He's like, Jack, come look at this. Come look what I found. So I walk into the kitchen and I see my old fish tank just sat on the table. And I'm like, Dad, why is my old fish tank sat on the table? After a closer look, I realised there was a creature inside. I couldn't see it very clearly, but he then explained to me that he found this mouse inside someone's compost heap, and it was hibernating, and he thought it looked really cool, so he decided to bring it home to show my little sister. He then pleaded to me to not tell mum, because he was going to get rid of the thing before she came back. I agreed, and then he proceeded to like lift up the little bit of shelter the thing was hiding under to give me a little bit of a better look. Now, I saw it very briefly, right? I didn't get a very good look, so I was expecting like this little mouse thing, because he said he found like some little cute, he said cool mouse, so I thought it was going to be some little cute mouse to show my little sister, right? But when he lifted this like sheltery rock thing up, right, I realised how fat this thing actually was. This thing was like a mouse but on steroids. Fuck me, this thing was huge. After realising how big this thing was, right, I jokingly said to my dad, imagine if this thing goes out, you'd be dead, right? And I kid you not, 2 seconds later, this thing jumped. Before I could even blink, this thing had darted underneath the fucking cooker, mate. It was out of here. I start creasing, right? My dad is shitting himself. He realises the absolutely shit he's gotten himself into. He's panicking. He's like tearing up the whole house trying to find it, yeah. And I just can't stop laughing. He's just getting annoyed at me. I'm just sat there laughing. Oh, he's working his ass off trying to find the thing. A good half an hour goes by and we have absolutely no luck in finding the thing, and we realise how much shit we're in for if we tell her the truth, right? So we have to bend the truth a little bit. Our cover-up story was that the mouse was actually a little cute mouse we found in our garage instead. We were originally not going to tell a full stop, but we thought just in case it turned up right, we needed something, right? So that if it did show up, you know, we could just play it off like, oh, when we found it was just a little baby and now it's just grown into this fucking behemoth. We didn't go our asses beat too bad, right? So we took it as a win. Since I am quite the detective and biologist, right, the next day I took it upon myself to do a little cheeky bit of research, right? And after all, I made a great discovery, right? I finally figured out what this thing was. It's known as an edible dormouse, right? Don't get confused, right? This thing ain't some mouse, right? It's actually known as a glisclis. I don't know why the fuck they're calling it an edible dormouse here. They're fucking retards or some shit. But this thing's a glisclis, yeah? And, apparently it's some sort of fucking rodent, right? And, let me just give you a little cheeky little look at, what it's known for doing, right? I have a little read. Well then... 6 months then go by and absolutely nothing happens, no trouble whatsoever, and then we gradually just forget about the whole situation until we go on holiday and we get my mum's best friend to, you know, look after the house and look after the dogs and feed them and whatever. And one of the evenings whilst eating dinner, we received this message from her. This was like some shit out of a horror movie. I clearly remember the fear in my dad's eyes when my mum slowly turned her head towards him. I wouldn't blame him, to be honest. So we were then stuck with Mrs. Grumps for the rest of the holiday. When we got home, we went and did some mouse hunting. And this is some live footage I managed to capture for you guys.
Oh my god, you got there! Oh my god, it looks so cute! No, Nancy! He's eating all the dog treats. It always is now.
Don't worry, you'll keep a fussy.
Where is he gone?
In case he kills you. It looks so cute!
He's gonna come the other side.
Hey, Massey!
Move something, Bree.
I'm gonna move
It's
something.
so cute!
I think he doesn't. There he is. What do you mean, where's he gone?
What do you mean?
He looks so cute!
Oh, where is he?
Can't you see it? It's there, Jack.
Oh, he's not there now.
He's up there now, that's where it's always been.
No, he was in the bucket. Oh, the bucket's there. Oh, I'm being dumb.
He's looking at you.
Don't worry guys, we're all alive. It's okay. Thankfully we all made it out alive, you know, because it was very, very scary times. You saw how lethal that thing was, right? But nevertheless, because I'm such a brave person, right, I managed to capture the little shit and I managed to release it back to the wild where it belongs, because I'm such a good human being, you know. And that brings us to the end of the video. And I appreciate if you made it this far into the video. It's quite a long one today, but you know what? You made it, so well done. Give yourself a pat on the back, mate. And I'll see you next time. Love you too. Mwah.